Right, let me tell you a story. Last year, a client, well, someone contacted me to say they were getting these bifold doors put in the kitchen, and originally they had a wall across here and it was just a window out to the garden. So there was a spur and a socket over there that needed removing because the bifolds were actually going to be longer, so it was in the way. So I removed them. One of them was this armoured cable. So the fuse spur, this was just horsed into the side of the fuse spur, went along here and went into that socket, and then it went up to the garage at the end of the garden there. The client didn't want it. There's only I think there is a fuse one up there with some sockets and lights or something, but he said, oh, don't worry, we don't use it, so just disconnect it and leave it. Now this was last year. They've had the bifolds done now, and so I removed that. They also wanted a board upgrade, so I upgraded the consumer unit, which is in there, and boxed it in. I'll show you when I go inside. I think the wife is in there with her kids, so I won't waffle in there and walk around just yet. Anyway, so I did the board upgrade, and they were also getting complete new flooring as well throughout the whole downstairs. So whilst I was there, the dude said, could you run a cable out to that socket when you do the board upgrade, because once the flooring goes down we'll never be able to get underneath it. I said no problem. So I ran a 2.5mm 3/4 armoured from the consumer unit, which I'll show you in a bit, under the floor, clipped it all underneath the joist, and then coiled it up out there. I've come back today to clip it all the way around. You can see all the way around, all the way around, and then to the socket. Reglanded this, I did that. I've reglanded this, I've reglanded that. That is actually a 1.5mm. So I've told him I can't, like, I think 1.5mm does it takes something like 23 something amps, clip direct. So I told him, I'll tell you what, I'll put like a 16 amp RCBO in. I got to test it in a minute anyway. I'll do a 16 amp RCBO back at the consumer unit, which will feed that socket there, which is in 2.5. It then goes to 1.5. Unfortunately, not done by me. Which obviously it was on like a 3 amp fuse spur back in the kitchen last year. It comes along here, all the way in the garage, into this garage thing here. And then it goes into a great big stuffing gland. I'll show you the pictures. I might even have a little video of the socket. When I redid the IP socket, it was horrendous. There's clearly a DIY has just stuffed them in, not knowing any idea of how to properly terminate an armoured cable. But they bought the proper glands, but didn't terminate it properly. I mean, surely there's a YouTube video somewhere about it, how to do it. So I told him I'm gonna pull this out. I'll rip all this out, and I'll dab that 1.5mm 3/4 into that socket there, and then they'll have 2 sockets basically on that 16 amp RCBO. 1.5mm 3/4 takes, I said it takes 27 amps. It's not ideal, and you never like want to see it, but it is, you know, within tabulated values. It can take, you know, 23 amps clip direct. So before, you know, keyboard wars go fucking mental, it's not, I wouldn't choose to do it. I wouldn't, if I knew it was going to be a 20 amp radio, I wouldn't go, oh yeah, let's sing some 1.5mm armoured around. I'd always like to up it to 2.5, but I can't do anything about the existing 1.5 from here all the way down the garden to wherever that socket is there. I've done a new 2.5 from the consumer unit all the way to that socket, and then seeing that it's 1.5 there, I'm going, well, I can just reduce the load. Well, it was already on a 3 amp fuse anyway, but for a dedicated circuit, I didn't want to put in like a 20, although again, it can take 23 amps. You know, I'm going to reduce it to a 16. Take all this shit out, and they've got a socket then they can plug shit in if they want. And take a bow. Right, I'm just changing out this socket. Replace this gland. And I wasn't going to replace this gland, but as I can see strands on the inside, it looks like some DI wires had to go. Let's have a look how not to gland an SWA. As I suspected, probably just stuffed, but it is just stuffed straight through the gland there. I'll have to re-terminate that one. I'll probably put a new gland on that now. Looks a little bit shagged. It was all wet on the inside, I could see. The seal wasn't great. So. Right, as you've probably just seen on that wanky time lapse I just did, which I was rudely interrupted by an individual. You know who you are. Existing socket, I just re-terminated the arm and cable into it. I use this to save space in the back of the box. Been doing it for years. It's not a new thing. Plenty of you guys do it, but if you don't, it is a good idea rather than having the whole brass thread sticking inside, especially when you've got into accessories. You do a coupler and then you've just got a male bush going in. Flat blade crimps on the core stranded conductors in the terminals. I put one little firefly cleat just to keep it out of the way. That's all good. Let's do the other end and then test it and get it up and running. And for those of you who asked, that goes to it's chopped. I reckon they used an electrode in the garden, but it's been cut. The cable goes round and down and goes down there somewhere. So it goes round and down and gets cut off somewhere down there. So that's nothing. All right, let's get to the other end. Right, I've taken a few pictures. I can't really film and chat in there because the client's wife and daughters are in there. I'm not that confident to chat to myself and film myself whilst they're in the background. That's fucking weird. So I've taken some pictures. I've just linked out. I've put flat blade crimps on the coarse strands. I've bonded the armour in, brass nuts and bolts. Heat shrinked up the terminals. Heat shrinked up the cables for identification. Happy days. Yeah, so brass nut and bolt, heat shrinked up to identify the cables, flat blade crimps, bonded the armour in. I've linked out R1, R2. So that's the first socket. Let's go to the next one, see what that is, and then I'll pop the CPCs into the I'll pop the CPCs into the MET and then do my insulation resistance test. Cool. Right, you saw me do all the insulation resistance test then. That's all good. I've powered up. Just going to do the RCD test, which I have to run back when I press test. run back and reset it. Check it's all good, yeah. And hopefully we can fuck off. Right. It went trippy a few times. So that's a good sign. Right. So let's check. See what we're getting. Right. So that's half times it didn't trip, that's correct. 1 times the rated current of the RCBO, which is 30 milliamps. 23.6, happy days. The other end of the cycle, the other side of the cycle, 18.3, not a problem. Times 5 the rated current, 23.3. The other side of the wave, 18.9.